Okay,
And Beth Green, clerk.
Tyler Arnold,
And
assistant.
Tyler Arnold, yes.
Man
Okay.
behind the scenes. Okay, let's take a few minutes to review the minutes from our last meeting in August. Anybody have any changes or additions to the minutes? Everything good? Okay. I guess, Victor, if you could sign.
Do you want to make a motion to approve and then,
Okay.
just to be,
Someone can make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay.
and then, Bill, you said,
I second it.
thank you.
Number 2.
Okay, all right, and we'll get a copy for you to sign, Victor.
Okay.
Make it official.
You can sign that one if you like, Victor.
I got a pencil and pen.
In the minutes from the last meeting was that the county commissioners were all in favor of an all trades board, which I think is going to be helpful throughout the county. And what I put on in front of everyone was Chapter 210 of the Construction Trades Board. It's 2 pages of basically the criteria that what we're talking about. Yeah. And take a few minutes to review that. It's kind of, I believe, what we've already discussed a little bit was that there were going to be 2 electricians, 2 master plumbers, master heating, ventilation, air conditioning, 1 licensed home improvement contractor, and 1 Maryland licensed design professional, like an architect or an engineer or surveyor, to be part of the group.
Thank you. You got it? Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Bill. What we were doing was, while you were out, is reviewing the Chapter 210 of the all boards thing, just to
Right, that's the Talbot model.
refamiliarize ourselves with and like I said, I believe we discussed this a little bit in the past, but with this becoming official, that's kind of the purpose of this meeting, to really agree or disagree on what it's going to consist of.
If you turn to page 13 in the bill, there is the version that's being proposed for Kent County. We did talk about this at maybe 2 meetings ago, maybe 3 meetings ago, but I went through and put in all the changes that you all had talked about. So the most important ones being in subsection B on page 14 about who the members would be. I think that was the primary focus. And of course, the idea that this board would then serve as the Board of Appeals for the building code. Along with helping me figure out what the heck to do about the plumbing code, but that's a separate issue.
Have we had an instance in the past where somebody's tried to appeal the building code?
Only once we got close, and then I think Craig talked him out of it.
Okay.
That was the guy who was using roofing shingles and little strips of wood for his ADA non-compliant ramp.
Oh, yeah, I remember
I think you talked him into it. That just wasn't a good idea. So he went ahead and built a compliant ramp, I believe. So, but that's as close as we ever got.
When you met with the commissioners, Bill, did they have any thing other than it sounded like a good idea?
It was a big overarching couple minutes. We were talking about all the boards, and so we talked about this board, but it was really just that sounds good, it's great, let us know about it, So, yeah, it was just kind of a thumbs up. There wasn't very much detail, I mean, the idea was to include all the trades, so.
Right.
As well as some of the, general contractor, some kind of designer. I mean, so you get sort of everybody at the table for discussion, so.
I guess it would be conflict of interest for Albert Nickerson to be on the board, huh?
Well,
I would think so.
a member of the county commissioners can sit on the planning commission. That is part of what's permitted in Maryland. So this is our board, and we could kind of make it anything we wanted to, so. But I don't know if he would have an interest in it. He's probably fairly busy with the other board he's on.
I'm sure, yeah.
So, but it could probably be worked out.
Right, but I would,
Would be nice to get a surveyor or engineer we work with.
yeah,
that
I
on the
like the
boards think
idea
that'd
of
be
the
useful.
surveyor being
Buck,
part of the community.
Buck and Jay.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Then some of the other things that are going on in the bill, there is a part of the building code where local jurisdictions are supposed to adopt a specific chart. This is not electrical, this is building, but are supposed to adopt a specific chart. And on page 7, I've proposed said specific chart by literally photocopying it from Queen Anne's. So I talked to Craig, and Craig said that's actually what we end up using anyway, is the Queen Anne specifications. So these are the Queen Anne specs, which is just the sort of local standards for very specific things like snow loads and flooding matters, wind speeds, things that are very, very localized. The state of Maryland reached out to me about this time last year and just said, you all haven't adopted this, you need to adopt this. And I said, and I checked with Craig, I mean, we haven't done this, it's been 20 years and we haven't done that. And he said, well, you need to do it now. I'm like, okay. So that's why it's here. We're complying with sort of how we're supposed to operate, but unless anybody has any objections, I don't see why, the immediate next door neighbor's chart wouldn't be sufficient. I don't think we need to do from-ground research.
This is pulled right out of the code book, so,
Yeah, so,
the
Their code book, right.
designates each county in America with one of these charts,
okay,
so.
perfect. Then the other issue was you all had asked me to craft some language to exempt solar app that we're going to be using. We are, by Maryland law, we're required to use an online web application to approve rooftop solar panels. So on page 6 of 6, there's a 73-20, and I just put together some language exempting solar app in as much as there is a conflict that needs to be exempted. So it doesn't exempt them from all electrical codes, it just exempts them from any conflicts created by the state requirement to use the online web application, so. Just trying to do the least amount of exemption needed. So basically, we have to use this program. People will, applicants, basically, folks who build and install solar panels on the rooftops of single-family residences in general will apply online, not to us, but to this app, and the app will send us an email that says they've been approved. So that's the new system.
Do they have to apply for their permit prior to going through the app?
Nope, the app does it all.
So the app sends you guys notification that these plans are approved, and then you guys have to generate a permit?
No, they get issued the permit from the app. We just get notice. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a shell permit, so we have a number.
Okay.
So we're just going to issue a permit that says number blah, approved per solar app number blank. And then that's how we can give you a inspection, right? It still has to be inspected and all, but this
You
is
gotta
an
be able to
app
file it
developed
some
by
kind of
HUD, I think, so.
Okay.
It's free, it doesn't cost us any money, but the state of Maryland wants all the jurisdictions to use the same app so that it's sort of, easy and level playing field. And it issues instant permits if you provide all the right information. The only thing that I'm concerned about is I don't know if our local folks who do this will have the sophistication to be able to go through all the requirements. I heard I attended a webinar where it talks about what it's like to use the app. Sounds like you have to have all your ducks in a row. There's an enormous amount of questions.
Which is gonna be them calling us and asking them.
Right, and our answer is going to be, it's state mandated, you have, we can't be involved, you have to fill it out. So it will tell them immediately, that's not the right code, that's not the right answer, that's not the right, so we'll see.
The average homeowner that bought a solar system online
That's
somewhere.
right.
Not, more than likely, is not gonna be able to fill all that out, is that what
I
your
don't
thoughts are?
really know. I don't know.
They
I
kind of
mean,
couldn't do that. They would have to get prior to this, they would have had to get an interconnection agreement,
Right.
which you have to be licensed to do anyway.
so they're going to have to get somebody licensed at some point.
100%.
Okay,
As I would assume, most of the time, it's gonna be the contractors applying for these applications for the homeowner, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And then I also wonder how many Maryland counties will continue the rogueness like they do in some other aspects.
yeah, I don't know. The thing with other Maryland counties is they already have online permit applications that you use, so they're just going to
Public
integrate
interface.
this. Right. We don't have that ability. We don't process permits online, so we'll just use what's called the standalone product, and it'll just let us know when it has approved a permit, so. And in some ways, it certainly takes a lot of workload off us, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how to work for, folks who aren't at
Does
the
the
national
state
level and do this
want-
all the time.
Does the state want the documentation that I leave for an approval to have the state permit number, or should I put the county permit number?
You can do the county permit number, because that's how we're going to route it through you, and we'll have the state number in the permit. It'll be in the printed permit, so.
Right.
But they're not going to actually need to get the permit from us. They're just going to need the inspections
No, I'm talking about like
afterwards.
my green sticker when I leave it there. I
Oh, yeah.
always put a permit number on it so that I know
Yes.
that that sticker belongs to that job.
Yeah, I would use ours,
Okay.
just because that way we can find it when they call. Yeah, that's a good point, Greg. So, the idea is that this is instantaneous approval. So in some counties, apparently, there's quite a long wait to get approved for rooftop solar because of the volume of their work. Ours is pretty tight. I think it's a couple of days. We don't have a long wait here. But this is what the legislature adopted. I think it will work very, very well in general. I just think for folks who, don't do this a lot or don't have a lot of experience with national platforms, it might be difficult for some of the installers, but they'll have to sort that out when
This
they
is
get there.
just residential rooftops?
Pretty much,
This
yep.
isn't commercial grade or
Nope.
anything like that? Okay.
And no ground mounted, nope, just kind of rooftop
Not
solar on
even a
houses.
residential ground mounted?
Nope, no ground mounted, it's all roof stuff. It's all designed for
So if
roof.
somebody in Kent County wants to put a ground mount system at their residence,
through
they
the
would just
regular
come here and
permit
do
process,
the
yep.
normal process?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think it ought, if you try to go in and do something else, it right away tells you that's not part of the program. So you'd know right off if you were
Okay.
trying to do something different.
Any idea why they didn't include residential ground mount?
I think because the application doesn't have it. But again, this is an application developed by HUD for national use, free, and they're still working on it. The webinar said, they want to expand it and have different modules, but for right now, this is what they've built.
This is what they got.
So it's as far as they've gotten, so. And I think it's certainly easier.
Eventually.
Roofs are kind of man-made, so there's a little more information. So anyway, that's the exemption language you all talked about. Most of the rest of the bill that precedes page 6 is, we talked about each one of them. I think we went over it. There were little tweaks here and there from things you all have mentioned. You had asked me, how does reciprocity work with other states? And I did reach out to the Department of Labor, and their answer was, as expected, it doesn't work for us. We can't do state reciprocity. The state can do that. So if folks have a Delaware license and they want to get a reciprocal master's electrical license, they call the state of Maryland, and there's a process for it, but it doesn't come through us. The county doesn't issue a reciprocal license anymore. We would just register them once they had their Maryland license issued by the state. So,
Yeah, and I believe certain states, it's a smooth transition, but I think Pennsylvania and Delaware recognizes Maryland. And you can move
It's
over.
always touching the states.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Delaware was pretty easy at one time.
it's, Virginia's about a 8-month backlog right now. I asked the lady what we're supposed to do. She said, call another electrician down there and have them sign off for you.
oh gosh.
They know the loopholes too.
It's like I thought we were trying to get away from that.
Right.
Wow.
That's Virginia's stance right now, till they get caught up.
Wow. It's a long time.
Yes.
Okay. So if you all have additional comments later on, just feel free to email them to me. Because of county commissioner's schedule, they've got the transportation tour by the Secretary of Transportation coming through in October. With the holidays, we're actually not going to have a first reading and filing until, I have November 6th here, it's going to be December 3rd at this point. So December 3rd is when it'll get introduced. So I can get comments up to, Thanksgiving and still incorporate them without a problem. So I do have to have it pre-filed ahead of time.
So December 3rd it gets introduced, and then
Right.
how long till this goes
Right.
into effect, you think?
It's not going to be that long because this particular bill doesn't affect any of the zoning code, so it doesn't have to go to planning commission. This is just county commissioners, it's public law. So it'll get a public hearing probably early January and probably by end of January adopted. So it won't be that long.
So first part of February or so, February,
Yeah.
March, we could end up with our first meeting.
Could be, although then they have to appoint people. That might take a little while, so
And who does the appointments?
county commissioners do the
Commissioners,
appointments.
okay.
But if you all have folks, we don't normally do this, boards don't usually suggest, folks for the boards, but this is a unique board in that
How
it's,
do you get the first batch or first group of people?
we're
If
gonna.
we're not appointing or suggesting.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that if you all want to give me a list of just suggested people, I think in this case it might be helpful. So normally we wouldn't do that, but this is, forming a board from scratch. It's not a citizen board, it's a board of people who have to have very particular expertise. So you all know folks in the industry. If there's folks you think are local folks that might be good names to put on the list, we'll add them to the list. I'm sure commissioners have their own names for the list. And then there'll probably be some outreach. I know that county commissioner's office puts an ad in the paper every so often for different boards to say, hey, we're looking for folks. I imagine that will happen as well. There'll be an open kind of invitation, so. So feel free to shoot me an email with folks, and we'll just add them to the list, so.
If you think we'll stay on we go back to a month-to-month meeting once we think there'll be a need as we add other things in?
I don't know. I was thinking quarterly to start with, but we'll see. I mean, the first,
I thought that's what we talked about, quarterly.
okay, good. At least I'm remembering things right, yeah. So, and my goal, the first goal that I have to work with the new board is to go through the other chapters of the code, like the plumbing code and some of the HVAC, and just get the knowledge we need to update it. I mean, I know the plumbing code is out of date. I don't know what to do about that, so. That was part of what took me so long to do this.
That's changed as well, because the state no longer recognizes the Maryland National Standards Plumbing Code. They only accept the International Plumbing Code, which is published by the ICC, which is
Right.
part of the building code cycle, which is already in this bill.
Right.
So it's on the 21 it changes with the building codes.
Okay, that's great. There's also this provision in state law where this county and 2 other counties have special authorization by the state to do their own sort of plumbing authorization, so. Exactly. So that was one of the first things I learned when I got here, because I scanned through state law to see, so is there any state law that's very specific to Kent County, right? Because sometimes there's a list and it's, but in Worcester County, we have one of those in plumbing. So I want to integrate that and make sure that's updated and get the codes where they're supposed to be. But, we've got to, like I said, that's part of what slowed me down on this is I thought, I've got 5 chapters I have to edit and figure out what the expertise is and find somebody. And then finally I realized, well, you know what, I could just use the new board. So that's when I sort of said, let's just move forward, But we've got a lot of chapters that need updating. And there's the housing standards chapter. I don't think it's current as well. I mean, most of these laws haven't been touched in 20 or 30 years. So, and I mean, this board, the perfect example, right? In 1990-something, they adopted a provision where you all couldn't be reappointed. You could only serve 1 term. Well, 20 years later, you're still serving that term, so.
It's been one long term.
It's been one long term. Well, you've been reappointed multiple times in between, so I don't think the county was aware of its own provisions at some point. So we're fixing that in this for sure, but just want to make sure that everything is up to date. So at least for me, I don't know what you all want to do. My first item on that agenda is, let's everybody take their part of the code and, make suggestions about what we could do to bring it up to date so that we're not out of date. And I'm sure there's stuff that our code doesn't even contemplate that's part of kind of, the new reality for the building professions post-COVID and post-state, licensure. So, but thanks. Yeah, I knew it wasn't up to date. I didn't know how much, so thank you. So the one thing I would like to know is just sort of have maybe a formal vote by you all, at least in concept, if you want to, whether or not you would approve this particular, recommend approval for this particular process. Because I'm sure the county commissioners are going to ask me, did the electrical board recommend approval? So.
I'll recommend it.
Second.
Makes sense to me.
Thank you. All righty. Appreciate it, guys. We'll get there.
Appreciate you digging into that.
Right, thank you, Bill, for going through this so thoroughly to, make it, legal in those aspects.
And speaking of legal, I have also sent the final copy to our county attorney, so he will review it before it gets filed to make sure everything is, in that other legal sense, in order, so, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, It's a lot to digest, and, like Bill said, if, you see anything, between now and Thanksgiving, get back to us, but, I think it's, well underway, let's put that.
Going forward, this is what you handed out, the only thing that we're reviewing and worrying about. We're not going through the stuff that was emailed to us.
What I emailed is basically the same document. I think the solar app piece was missing. I think I added that.
On,
What else went? Sorry.
on one page, which we corrected last time, I believe, where we spoke about it, they were saying HVAC could be a journeyman. And on this new one, it says master.
Correct. I remember you all didn't want it to be a journeyman, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Talbot code, that's the journeyman. So I didn't carry that over.
All right. So
I
we
put
don't have to
master.
worry about any of this that
Right,
was
that-
emailed to us. We're just
Well-
looking at this.
Right, although this was in the email as well.
Yeah, but it was part of
Right.
this
that-
other also.
Right. The other is Talbot's actual code as sort of an example to compare. That's the model that I use to build ours off of.
All right.
So I reached out to MACO, the lobbyist group, and asked them, can you poll all of the counties and ask them, does anyone have an all-trades board? So they polled all the counties. I got about 6 or 7 answers back. The only county that answered that had a board like this was Talbot. They were the only one. Montgomery had they had the building appeals board, I think. There were a few that had an electrical board, a few that had, but nobody had the all together except Talbot. So I pulled their regs and used them as the basis to sort of construct ours. I took your list of things and their list of things and kind of crisscrossed them to make a construction board that kind of matched us. So, but that's what that is. That's the Talbot.
All right. And the term also,
Right,
we're changing that in this.
right.
All right.
Yeah, you all can be reappointed without limitation.
Since we had a small pool to draw from.
All of the boards here have a small, that's difficult. I mean, there's one board, the Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board, where they cannot serve more than 2 terms. That's state law. So we're literally going to have to find new people when the terms expire in December. So, yeah, I don't like building that into the code if we don't have to, because it's difficult to find folks.
All right.
Yeah, it does say though that we have the longest term to be served is 3 years. And then you get, members may be reappointed, members eligible to serve under a different category.
That's the Talbot one still.
Is that still the Talbot reading? I'm reading off of the
Yes.
one.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. You
Okay.
want to look at the one
So
So
that's got
that
the
one
red
is on,
draft.
It's on page 14, and it's under C in the middle of the page. So I did say that the longest term is 3 years, because the idea is we're going to stagger everybody. So someone might get a 1-year appointment, a 2-year appointment, a 3-year appointment, and then once they come up for reappointment, then it would always be 3 after that. So, and I also put in some language that members could serve under different categories. So the idea being if you're a plumber and electrician, and you're on the board as an electrician, and then the electrician goes and they only find a plumber, then you can switch categories. If you have more than one qualification, you can move around in the board as to your position. That way, we can hopefully fill all the slots. So that I kind of added.
We can make notes on this and write and everything.
Yeah, that's your copy. You can do whatever you want, and let me know if you want things to be different.
so what we're saying, members in general can be reappointed across.
Period, right. Which,
Okay.
except for that ag board, that's how all the other boards work here. Yeah. I'm not really sure why this board had been limited in the beginning, so.
Gotcha. That makes sense with the small pool, Kent County. So
Especially when this board, you have to have expertise. It isn't just a citizen board, right? I mean, you have to know what you're doing and be a master electrician. So, yeah, there's not a lot of those folks, for sure.
Okay.
Same thing goes, Historic Preservation Commission is the other board that has very specific requirements. you have to be an expertise in that field with certain standards. So it's, I've always said, I hope nobody leaves. And unfortunately, a few did, but we found some folks. But that's another board where it's hard to find people because you need very specific credentialing, so. Yeah, there's no limit on reappointment on that board either, yeah.
May need a bigger table.
That's a good point.
Bill, page 12,
Yes, sir.
exceptions.
I believe it will.
Yes.
An application for inspection is not required for
Smaller
the installation of an outlet under 20 amps or less than 2 outlets with a recognized inspection authority.
Mm-hmm. That's in the existing code. It's unaltered. Does it need to be
It's
altered?
under which existing code?
Ours.
The current.
Current code, yeah.
That's less restrictive than the electrical code book.
Okay. What should it read?
It basically says any alteration. The
Okay.
code allows for you to add a 15 amp receptacle or a 20 amp receptacle as long as it's not extended more than 6 feet.
And that's probably going to change from code to code, right?
It hasn't in the last 2 code cycles, but it was a new thing 2
Okay.
cycles ago, but
Would it just be wise just to take out this section
I
altogether?
think so.
Okay.
Because these exceptions are already in the code book. And
Yeah.
And they're more specific.
Yep. No, that's perfect. Thank you.
So there's gonna be no more 44 at all.
Correct. Then it'll just renumber all the rest. So
The
then
B's are already gone. All right. So if nothing goes wrong and we move forward, the county commissioners are planning on signing this in December.
We'll introduce it in December.
And introduce it in
They'll have a
December.
public hearing in January and probably adopt it at the end of January. Our legislative cycle requires 3 hearings, so. They call it 3 readings. So first reading is they introduce it, they vote on whether they want to entertain it. Then they schedule a public hearing, that's second reading, so people can come and talk about it. You all are welcome to, I'll let you know the date. And then the third reading is after having heard the public testimony, it gives them time to consider it, and then they can adopt it, amend it, or reject it. So that's the basic process for any bill. I can't ever, prognosticate on how it's going to go, but, from the informal discussion, they thought it was a good idea, they appreciated your all's input. I don't see why it wouldn't move forward, so.
So before they sign it into law, we'll be able to read it.
Sure, yeah, I'll send you a final version. I think the final version is just going to be whatever we said today, and anything you send me all before Thanksgiving, so.
Because we're not going to have another meeting before December 3rd.
Correct. Yep, I can keep you up to date on it. And if you all want to come down in January and testify at the public hearing, that'd be great. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. I imagine there won't be many other people. Judging by the crowd outside.
Not much
Yeah.
pushback.
No, I think it's a positive thing, yeah. If you want to have a big turnout, we can throw in a tax raise or something.
We're okay.
Pass on that, huh?
It'll be interesting to see if the lawyer has any recommendations or changes. But I think it's
Pretty close.
quite sufficient. Yeah. So, anyway, if there's no more new business or discussion, anyone?
Good, Craig? You good?
Yeah, I'm happy with all that. I think it'd be a good thing.
Right.
There's not much point of having an electrical board anymore with the licensing being taken by the state, so. It just makes
Well-
sense to incorporate everybody else and deal with the issues of the county.
Right, but I will say by having the electrical board, it made it easier for us to process the registration technicalities that we're now doing by understanding, what you guys are saying about it and stuff. So, you may not think that we get much from it, but we do. And I think we're gonna get a lot more when we have more heads at the table talking about stuff.
All
that-
the other issues.
Right, that, we're not aware of. And, so I think it's a win-win, but, that's just my opinion.
Well, we don't have a building department. You guys function as the building department, so thank you.
And I also think that, having a surveyor, or engineer is, good option to have in there.
Surveyor.
I mean,
One of each.
One of each,
yeah.
like kids.
God, I hope the board's not like kids.
No, I meant the one of each.
Right. Well,
Motion to adjourn? Is that what you look for?
thank you.
That's what that hand signal apparently means, yes.
Seconded.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.